Welcome, everybody, to the Real Ethereal Show. I'm Laura Boone, and guess who I have in the studio today? Well, he's always actually in the studio, but he's come back around the camera. How does that feel?
Surreal.
A little different, right?
I was like, this is gonna be easy, and it's not. So far, I'm like, ugh.
It's a little bit different when you're on the other end of it, isn't it?
It absolutely is.
But don't be too modest because you're a Leo.
A Leo.
And there's a part of him that loves this.
I'm a Leo, and I'm also
What we're going to talk about today. He is a 3. So today, you guys, we're getting to the 3 on the Enneagram, which is really fun. You know, I've loved the Enneagram for years and years, and I've done several shows on it. And right from the beginning, Jesse loves the Enneagram and knew he actually is somebody who can actually talk about the Enneagram before I met him. You've learned about it, right?
yeah. No, I had.
When did you get into it?
I got interested in it. My boyfriend is a big Enneagram aficionado.
Before you were.
Yes,
He
before I
helped
was. He's the one who introduced me to it.
Oh.
Yeah. So and
How quickly into you dating was he going, what's your number? Will you take this test for me?
it was.
So he could figure you out?
We took it on a lark because I knew my Myers-Briggs personality type, and I never heard of the Enneagram. And I then, when I took the test, it like I was like, oh, what is this? And I just remember one moment, and he was reading me the examples of what a 3 is. I was like, oh, that's everybody. And then literally the next sentence was, and 3s think that everybody thinks this way. And I was like, okay, yeah.
Isn't it crazy?
Yeah, it is. It's crazy.
Once you get into it, it's so crazy. Well, thank you for being here.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And being on the other side of the wall or the camera, if you will. So we, as some of you know, I am trying to build a library of shows so that you can go back and watch and read, watch about your type or your loved one's type. So we have already done 4 and 8, and I'm not doing them in order, and now we're doing 3. There are 9 types, you guys, and there's not one that's better or worse than the other. They all represent different archetypes, really, of humanity and different personality types. And I know Jesse, who, you know, not only knows about his type, but I could actually talk with Jesse about disintegration and integration. And you've actually kind of taken it another level where you use it to, you know, help improve yourself.
Absolutely.
So we're going to get into how that works as well. I want to talk about 3, though, just from a high level. And I want to talk to you a little bit about some famous 3s. And then I have some really cool quotes by 3s that you'll recognize. You'll be like, when I did this with my business partner, Ellen, who's an 8, I just remember her going, I would read the 8 quotes, famous 8s, and she was like, yep. So we're going to do some of those too, which I think is fun. Okay, so every type has a nickname, and the 3's nickname is, there are 2 I always hear, the achiever and the performer. Both those are the ones I always hear. And that kind of is self-explanatory. Famous 3's. Oprah Winfrey is one of my favorite 3's. Exemplifies a 3, and she also exemplifies some of the integration
Absolutely.
to both points, which I love. We'll get to that. Madonna, Tony Robbins, and I put him on this list for a reason because I want to talk about kind of, he's really integrated in a way that's all numbers can do, but very particular to a 3. Michael Jordan, huge 3. F. Scott Fitzgerald, 3. Kobe Bryant is another famous 3. I would venture to say there are lots of professional athletes that are 3's, if you learn what a 3 does. Famous 3 quotes. This one's from Oprah. Such a 3. The big secret in life is that there is no big secret. Whatever your goal, you can get there if you're willing to work. I always knew I was destined for greatness. 3.
That is a 3.
Total 3.
That is 3.
3's basic fears. You know, every type, and I'll get into childhood patterns, every type has childhood conditioning, and then they're also, I believe, just sort of born this way, and then you have conditioning that sort of confirms it.
Mm-hmm.
But every type has a basic fear, a basic desire, and a super ego message. And let me pull this out again. There are lots of great Enneagram books, and Manira, who is my Enneagram expert who comes on the show, is also
she's also a type 3.
She's right. Yeah. She's always over prepared, and that's a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
But I love The Wisdom of the Enneagram by Don Richard Russo and Russ Hudson. And you can also go to the EnneagramInstitute.com to get all this same information. So the basic fear of a 3 is of being worthless or without value apart from their achievements. In other words, their identity is very connected to their achievements, and their basic fear is they're not anything without their achievements, or their identity, if you fail at something, then that reflects on who you are. That's
on a
right?
very deep level.
And that's why they call it a basic fear.
Yeah.
And every number has a basic fear. And sometimes when you can't, sometimes you can take these tests to know your type, and it's hard to tell, you're equal. Sometimes it's really good just to go back to the basic fears, and you can pretty much say, wow, that one resonates, right?
It sticks out immediately. You're just kind of, you're like, just even thinking about it.
Right. I know. Okay, so the basic desire of a 3 is to feel worthwhile, accepted, and desirable. So kind of like a 2,
mm-hmm.
but they want to get people to like them.
Yeah.
They want to get people to admire them.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's their motivation. 2s are the same way, but these folks do it in a very different way. 3s do it, they come from a...
They're status driven.
Very different angle.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And also, they want to be liked by winning or achieving, a title or an award, or they've done something.
Right.
That makes people admire them or like them. Super ego message. You are good or okay as long as you are successful and others think well of you.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's it. Yeah.
It's that ego, I know Dershana talks a lot about this on her show, that's the lie.
Well, it's...
Or the false promise.
Yeah.
It's another way to put it. It's the false promise.
Yeah. No, it's in a lot of ways, that's kind of what you feel as a 3, is that it's just like you are what other people think you are.
Right.
And I think everybody has that to a certain extent. But for 3s, it's a defining characteristic. It's in my life as well.
Right. I wrote this down because I've known some other 3s, and you might not exemplify it as much, but I probably have met 3 or 4 3s that literally carried the brand of the family. Mm-hmm. It's like the name of the family, and it's like, I have to be the spokesperson, if you will, or the brand, or the person when they think about our family. They take that responsibility, whether it's been put on them. Sometimes it is put on them. Maybe it hasn't been put on them, but they want to step up and be like, right. I'm representing my family.
Right.
Interesting, because we talked about some famous 3s. The famous 3, Oprah Winfrey, Michael Jordan, brand. Mm-hmm. They're the masters of their brand.
Yeah. So
3.
Right.
3s understand about perception.
Mm-hmm.
Better than any other number. 3s understand that they are a walking brand. Some 3s, really achieve high, and they become a brand ambassador. They literally develop a brand, which, isn't it interesting? Michael Jordan and Oprah Winfrey, you know what their brand is? Their name.
Yeah.
Both of them. Michael Jordan is a picture of himself, and Oprah Winfrey is literally Oprah. Her brand is Oprah.
Yeah, and it's a very successful. You look at each of them, and they're just, even down to Michael Jordan's logo, it's him. Yeah, slam dunk.
Yeah. Which, integrate, let's talk about disintegrated first, and then let's go to integrated, because the disintegrated part of 3s, and you can sort of see a hint of it, except, Michael Jordan and Oprah have alluded or kind of gone past the negative aspects of this, but it's kind of obvious. It's egocentric. It's, overly competitive, win at all costs.
And just a complete lack of importance on emotion. That's
yes.
They will kind of remove themselves emotionally.
Detaching from your feelings.
Detaching.
Because you know what? You're rolling up your sleeves and you're doing whatever is necessary, and emotions slow you down.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one thing I'll tell you about a 3, for better or for worse. And we're going to get into the integrated because there's some actually good qualities about that. Mm-hmm. But they do not wallow.
No. Oh, absolutely not.
I mean, it's almost like to take time to process something emotionally is like, how is that helping me achieve my goal?
Yeah. Well, and that's
how is that productive?
Yeah.
They're productive.
Yeah. No, well, and that's very much
at all costs, right?
At all costs. That's very much like my mother, who is also a 3.
Oh, okay.
And she's the worst thing in the world that you can be is kind of stuck in victimhood, like to be a victim. You immediately need to find a way out, and kind of what she would call navel gazing. No.
And it sounds like to me, based on the emotional thing, what she's doing is she's kind of negating the whole emotional processing thing, or making it inconsequential, or denying it, or putting it in the shadow.
Or
the shadow consciousness.
Certainly, when it's bad, but when it's good, she's very solution oriented. She doesn't want to wallow. If you go to her complaining about something, or me for that matter, I've like you said about being drawn to your mother, I've very much kind of adopted these characteristics. Is that what can we do to fix it? Don't just complain to me. We need to find out a way to fix it.
Right.
So,
right.
Yeah.
Another disintegrated aspect to 3s, and this is when they get really disintegrated, okay, is dishonesty.
Mm-hmm.
They are they are some of the worst liars. And they do the white lies. They do when they get really disintegrated, they're slick, you guys. They're the salespeople. They're the people that, I love doing 3s in literature. The Wizard of Oz, you guys. 3.
Yeah.
Wizard of Oz. Disintegrated 3. And integrated. He had some integrated qualities too, but he's the man behind the curtain.
Yeah. No, there's
a 3 always has a man behind their curtain.
Does
that resonate?
Yes. One of the worst things that a 3 fears, I think, is that people will see who you
the curtain pulled back.
Who you really are, who your weakness is.
Right. And that big thing that you're projecting,
yeah,
that you think is your image or your brand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But they're going to see your ugly side. Yeah.
Right.
Can't do that.
So, and the other thing about 3s too that I've learned about the whole dishonesty thing, that's even to me more painful. They can be dishonest with themselves. They can deny, I need rest. They deny, can you think of some things, just sort of stories you tell yourself to keep going?
Well, it's
not honest with yourself.
Is this something that I myself truly want? Is this I think it comes to just life goals often, and it's kind of this, it's much bigger. It can be kind of existential. Mm-hmm. Am I doing this just because of what other people will think of me? But where does it factor in what I think of myself? Mm-hmm. And so that is something that gets very muddled.
Yeah.
So it's hard to kind of recognize.
And it's really about slowing down, and really, you guys, going back to your basic fear, and in that super ego message, and going, wait a minute, that's the story I'm telling myself.
Mm-hmm. The story you're telling yourself. That is very true.
That's the story I'm telling myself. And one thing I love about the Enneagram, and your partner got you into it, which is so lucky. When you get people that you're in relation with, and they speak Enneagram, you can be mirrors to each other, and you can really help each other. You're disintegrating. You're getting into that, that place where you don't see anymore based on fear, right? And it really helps you kind of pull out of that. Okay, I want to also talk now about the best qualities of 3, because every number, you guys, teaches you something that it exemplifies a quality that we all need. We all need a little bit of every number.
Right.
And we can all look to the high side of every single number and learn from the message and the great, beautiful things that they teach us. And threes, hands down, they're called the achiever. But I like to describe a very integrated three is about excellence. They want to be the best. And I mean in a way that is so wonderful, that's so positive. Like they believe that with hard work, there's nothing that they can't achieve, and they want to be excellent just for the sake of being excellent. And they are the ones who have that positive vision of, we can figure out how to do this. There's nothing I can't do. There's nothing I can't be. There's nothing I can't have. And, people can talk the talk. This is, I'm going to compare them to sevens for a second. Because sevens say that too. There's nothing I can't do. I want to go do that. Why not me? And they're like, I'm bored now. I want to go, why don't I have this yet? And I'm going to go over here and do this. Why don't I have this yet?
Yeah.
Why not me? And that's a 7 trip up. Threes never happens to a 3. A 3's like, I can be this. Okay, now I've got to roll up my sleeves. I've got to get a plan. I've got to never give up. I've got to persevere. I've got to be consistent.
Yeah, threes I don't think necessarily innately believe that they deserve something. I think it's
thank you. That's why I have numbers on the show, because they give you, that's perfect.
Yeah, it's all about, like, I think I can speak kind of for a 3 in general. It's a lot of times you feel kind of like an imposter, like people are going to figure out that this is
almost to a fault.
Yeah.
You don't believe you deserve something. You believe you have to earn it, and you've never quite. You know what? It's a perfection thing.
Mm-hmm.
Or I haven't done as well as I possibly could.
Right.
Well, that's one of the things that break my heart about 3s.
Yeah.
They're never good enough.
Yeah.
When are you ever good enough? And you should never use that word. When you get integrated, and I'm sure you have moments where I get it, I know. But when you disintegrate, right? It's like, does your partner say this? Like, when are you gonna be? When are you okay?
It's really interesting because he's a 6, and as a 3, that is kind of at my highest points, at my most integrated points, I emulate a 6. I share traits that with a 6. So it's very much like he's very interested in other people. As a 6, I used to think that the 6s were kind of the losers of the Enneagram, which is
such a 3.
Yeah,
it's in my disintegrated notes. Judgmental, critical. So there you go. But that's a 3 disintegrated. Yeah. They're judgmental.
Yeah, but 6s know people. They know people very well, and they know their value.
Right.
And they can see it immediately there, and they can see their where their shortcomings and where they are strong. And as a 3, what we often forget to do is forget that other people, you can lean on other people, that you're not by yourself, because it feels like a one-way track, and it's a weird thing to say when your life is so defined by other people. I really recognize, I think of it in kind of terms of when I'm at my happiest or when I'm at my lowest. What am I doing? How do I behave? And at my happiest, I'm working with other people. We're working towards a common goal. I use my strengths. And then when I'm at my weakest, I'm alone. I'm shut in.
I was just about to say, I think a lot of it has to do, well, there's a good quality about a 3, and that, you know what, they're the, can I give you a fictional example of a 3? Rocky Balboa, 3. They'll be the ones that are lonely in putting in the hours. They're lonely, and they don't self-pity, and they are very clear. They're getting to their goal, and they'll put the time in. But, when they get integrated, they start to feel more a part of a team. And we're going to get to integration in a minute. I wanted to bring up one other great quality of a very integrated 3, and that is they are the role models of the Enneagram. They're the mentors of the Enneagram. They're the if you can see it, you can achieve it. Or if you can see it, you can believe it. If you can see it, you can achieve it. So they're the ones that other people look to and they go, if she can do it, I can do it. They're inspirational through their hard work and their achievements. Tony Robbins is such a great example of literally taking the 3 mantras and turning it into a brand, and then completely 100% owning that he's a role model. That and then he teaches other people to be role models. So you can do this, you can do this. 3s are the cheerleaders for other people. They're the ones that are like, what are you talking about? Of course you can do this.
Yeah.
Because they have that beautiful dream, that hope that I know it can be done. They know it can be done. And then they're actually willing to come up with a plan, and they understand the hard work and the effort and the action that needs to be taken. 3s are the action. They're one of the action numbers. There's more than one.
Yeah.
8s are 1, 2.
Yeah.
But 3s take action.
Yes. Yeah, we do. And
they don't sit and stew. They go, what can we do?
Well, and I think something that you really kind of touched on very well is that a 3 at its best point is still very much defined by other people, and their identity is other people. It is how they act within that identity, and when they are mentors and working towards helping other people and working towards like others' achievement alongside their own. Mm-hmm. That is the best a 3 is that they're very good at being a team leader and bringing everybody up.
Right.
When they're good.
Right. They're great inspirational figures when they're on point. And they teach us all, if you work hard enough, you can become whatever it is and achieve whatever it is you want to achieve.
Right.
So they give, that's that human energy in the world, that archetypical energy that we love. We see it in the Olympics, we see it in sports. We see it with some of these people that pull themselves up by the bootstraps. It's those stories. They pulled themselves up and they decided on a goal and they went after it and they became that.
Right.
That's a 3. So we have talked about in some of my other shows, and this to me is what, because this is all really fun to read this and go, oh, this is my type, and it's, it's a fun game and interesting. But now what do you do? Right? Now what? Who cares?
Yeah.
Okay, I know I'm a 3. How does that help my life? So the integration and disintegration aspects to Enneagram and knowing what your points are, now that you've figured out you're a 3, now what do I do? And the points that are connected with a 3 are 6 and 9. Now, Manira has helped educate me and you.
And me.
But it's not just that you disintegrate to one number or integrate to one number, that you can actually disintegrate or integrate with both of those points. But one that there's typically, though, a number that more typically that number disintegrates towards. Mm-hmm. And with 3, they disintegrate to 9. And I'm going to tell you kind of the book version of what that means. And then if you could give me some examples, because he's the expert in the examples, because he's living the life.
Yeah.
But when you disintegrate to 9, a 3 gets so stressed out and so fearful and so overwhelmed that they start to disassociate. They literally disconnect and they become apathetic. They kind of disappear in their relationships. They float. They become a low 9, which 9 is the peacemaker, but 9s they can be passive when they're disintegrated, so they become passive. They kind of aren't there anymore. They're like shells too. Typically they burned out from all the work, mm-hmm. and they become a shell.
Right.
So have you felt like that before? Do you know when did that resonate?
Absolutely. And I think it's also, you devalue things that you cannot do, or that you, or not even just things, people.
Like, I didn't want that anyway.
Yeah, people, as well. It's like,
or I didn't care. I don't care what they
them.
think anyway.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I'm bigger than them anyway. And you get this very
ego kind of
big kind of narcissistic bellicose kind of just you can just kind of stomp right through it. Doesn't matter. Why would you care about them? And that's
another really good point. Disintegrated threes, when they're really disintegrated, are narcissists.
Yeah.
Most narcissists are disintegrated threes, but go ahead. Yeah.
No, and so and I think in threes, I've noticed two different kind of patterns on how I behave when when I feel out of control or under stress. It's either, like you said, and it's different forms of disassociation. One is, I want to sit down, I want to forget I even exist, I want to just binge Netflix.
Totally.
Just check out, eat junk food, drink.
Medicate, whatever it is.
Self-medicate, right. And then the other side is
That's a great point, because nines do. Yes.
Nines have an appetite as well. But in addition to that, you're kind of ruthless sometimes. You're very ruthless, and
win at all costs.
I
shut it down.
Yeah.
Don't care about my impact on anybody.
Yeah.
Using people. Threes will use people to their ends. I mean, there's a using aspect.
Highly
manipulative aspect to a three.
Right.
An 8, when they disintegrate, can be very destructive as well, and they're a win at all costs number. I think 3s and 8s have that in common when they disintegrate, but 8s are more outwardly and openly abusive.
They're not really.
3s aren't as much. 3s will manipulate and go around and.
So, insidious. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good.
They it's all about maintaining your image. I know a few I know cases of friends who were disintegrated 3s that they lost their job and they continue to pretend like they have a job, and they will leave and they will go away.
That's
for the
a great
entire
example.
Day. And like they have somewhere to be.
Yeah, and they're the man behind the curtain putting the image up there.
Yeah, and you don't want to challenge them on that, because they're gonna come after you and whatever. They're like, well, you do this at threes can be very calculating.
So, here's how you use this, you guys. When you really, really get honest with yourself, and you learn what some of these warning signs. I mean, they call them in the book red flags. So when you see some of these red flags, or when you have a partner or somebody who's close to you, family member, whatever, and they go, I'm noticing some of these behaviors. Like for a 3, the minute you hear, where have you been? I feel like I can't reach you. Where are you? I don't feel like I'm in relationship with you. Here's what I hear I've had friends that have been in relationships with disintegrated 3s. And their common complaint is, I don't feel connected.
Yeah.
And here's what's tricky about a disintegrated 3. They don't feel connected, and yet the 3 is perfect. But I never forget your birthday, and I open the car door for you, and I do this, and I do that, and I do this, and I do that. And they're completely denying that they've checked out. Mm-hmm. And so that person's like, well, yeah, I see the evidence of it, but I don't feel like you're connected.
Yeah, you feel something's off, right?
You feel something's off. And it's a trick. 3s most of the time, don't even know that they're playing. So how do you use the Enneagram? Listen, give your loved ones your manual, your user's manual, right? Mm-hmm. And give them permission to help you get more conscious when you're disintegrating. And then, there's a path to integration. And the path to integration is 6. Now, again, Manira's teaching us that you can also, once you really get integrated, you can start to use a high 9, so you can be more of a peacemaker and get more calm and peaceful rather than be so anxious like a 3 can be stressed out. But a real great, clear way to try to start integrating is by going to 6, which I'll describe it and then you do your thing. When a 3 integrates to 6, they choose to acknowledge that they're not alone. They choose to acknowledge that their behavior impacts the system or community that they're in. Mm-hmm. They're not invisible. And when they're not there, it has an impact. Mm-hmm. So they choose to be a part of a team. They also lean into the team. And they start to go, wait a minute, I'm important because I'm just a member of this team. It's not just all about my achievements. There's a good of the group that I'm a part of. And then they start to have self-esteem because they can bring their talents and their hard work to a relationship or a company or whatever community they're a part of, which they start to feel the pressure off. They start to be acknowledged for their skills by the group, but it's also not all about them.
Right. Right.
So that's how I would describe going to 6. What do you?
I think that's very true. When I'm at my best, I'm thinking about. I remember to like ask what other people are feeling. I'm not just like in my own crap, like just going full steam ahead. And that's the kind of the power of a 6. Is a 6, like I said earlier, a 6 has a lot of understanding of others' worth. Others people, like they see the worth of other people.
6s are called the loyalist.
Yeah.
6s.
The loyal skeptic.
The loyal skeptic. 6s are the great team builders.
Yeah.
They're the glue that holds teams together in the Enneagram. They teach us about community.
They often understand you better than you understand yourself.
Mm-hmm.
I think in a lot of times. And I when I stop and I can remember like to ask like, well, how's that going for you? Like, how's your project going? Can I help on it? It's not that I'm making them happier, just that I feel happier when I'm doing that for another person. When I can be there to help them on something, that feels like that it feels like a greater achievement almost.
Now, because you have learned about the Enneagram, I'm getting the feeling this is what you do. It's what I do too.
Mm-hmm.
So do you literally sit there and go, okay, I'm slipping, I've been disintegrating, I've been disassociating. Okay, so what are some 6 things I could do right now? Like, let me think about the tools that I've read about. So do you literally go through that gyration?
Absolutely. And
I do too.
Well, and the thing
you're using it.
Yeah. And I think the thing with the 3 often is that you quite literally forget that you can ask other people for help or that other people are involved. Like all the time, like here at the studio, it's, Jamie is constantly, like, she'll tell me, she's like, what can I do to help? I'm like, oh, I got it. And
right.
Yeah. And you forget the involvement of other people.
I think the thing about using this to integrate and going to the number that you can integrate to, that you need to know, and you kind of just said it, is that for every single number, it is counterintuitive. Mm-hmm. It's not the intuitive way that you would go. Mm-hmm. So literally, you said it beautifully. I don't even know. I don't even remember. I don't even think. So what the Enneagram does, when you learn the number that you integrate to, it's not going to necessarily feel comfortable. It's not going to be something that you think of automatically. In fact, that's not ever the tool that you've picked up to cope in life. Mm-mm. I mean, but what the Enneagram does is it helps you see this tool is one of the better tools that you can use to add to your repertoire to be a healthier, happier person.
Right.
Again, I've said this in previous shows, I'm a 4. So, freedom loving, creative, loner, independent type, reflective, emotional, all those things. Oh my gosh, the last thing I want to do, my number that I need to go to integrate to is 1. Last thing I need to do, or ever wanted to do, was to reach for discipline or delaying gratification or, setting a goal and doing things based on the principle, not on how I feel that day.
Yeah.
Counterintuitive.
Yeah.
And I just started doing what you do. Like, I just sit there and I go, okay, I'm feeling off. I'm really under stress. I'm slipping. Okay, how do I bring some 1 into my life?
Yeah. Like for a 3, it's, it's so easy just to keep kind of plowing through things. And when you actually just need to stop and talk to somebody about it and explain that, this could be easier and I may need some help on this, because 3s have a really hard time asking for help.
Mm-hmm. So it really is, I think it's a practice. I think it's the best word. It's a practice of trying to become more self-aware, understanding what your red flags are, and then understanding that there's a list of behaviors that you can choose based on what you integrate to that could be very helpful. I want to, in closing, I want to talk about a couple of things. I'm going to tell you some ways I am with threes, because I actually have a three that I'm really close to that is an employee of mine. And then I want to tell a little story about Jesse when it comes to three. And then I want to hear from you about what's the best way to deal with a three, to help a three, okay? If you're in a relationship with them. So I think one of the best things to do with a three when they're in stress, and I have somebody that I'm close to, like I was talking about, first of all, he tries to shuck and jive and hates criticism. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's just like, if, anybody you work with, and especially if you're their boss, which I'm his boss, at some point or another, you're going to have to have a conversation where you correct them or say, you know what, I know you did it this way, but I need you to do it this way. Okay. It's just, that's a part of what the relationship is. And, we really get along. Yeah. He has a hard time sometimes with criticism from other people, and I actually even help him with that. Yeah. But I have to sit down with him. Literally, I am so conscious of how I talk to him. First of all, I do the sandwich technique with a three. I mean, really, you've got to come in and you've got to ease them into, I need you to know something. You just knocked it out of the park with this. I really appreciate what you're doing over here. Mm-hmm. And, I want to talk with you about something. I want to get with you on how we think we could improve this. Right. Okay, that language, it's not critical. It's collaborative, mm-hmm. going to 6, and it's talking to them about being more excellent. Right. Not referring, you are doing, this was wrong, this was bad. It's saying, how can we improve this? A 3 will be like, oh, I'm all about improving things. Yeah. I mean, that's their mantra. The other thing is, I have to tell a little story about Jesse, and I use the Enneagram. I can't remember what it was. Jesse, I'm sure, has it burned in his brain. He made a mistake with editing.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Made a mistake. Now, a lot of you can't even fathom the amount of shows he is editing every week. And it is insane, which is just like a 3, right? You've bitten off so much here. It's crazy. And the fact that so much of it looks great and there are no mistakes, it's mind-boggling to me. So he released this episode, and it literally was up for a very few minutes. But I was like, oh my gosh, there's this mistake and there's this mistake. And I was like, Jesse, take it down, And
I went all the way around the Enneagram that night.
Literally, we have not discussed this until the show, no. Really. And I have to tell you, I sat there and I thought about the fact that he's an Enneagram. It just hit me like a ton of bricks. And I was like, oh my God, Jesse is freaking out right now. Jesse is in a down spiral. He is on a death spiral because I knew. And it really was. If you can know this about a 3, you guys, I was like, it's okay, Jesse. It's okay. And I have to tell you, I have employees. I have a lot of responsibilities. There are moments where I have no problem going, you need to get this figured out, okay, with anybody that mm-hmm. I work with. This is unnecessary. I felt my heart broke for you. Oh. Because I know how much you care, and I know how excellent you want to be, and I know how hard you're working, and I know, it was just one moment. You're human. So, my God, one mistake out of, 50 shows that you're cranking out. To me, it was like, well, of course. And then honestly, what happened, Jesse? That happened, and I was like, wow. Thank God we have a good editor. That's what I thought from that. Not Jesse's a crappy editor. It made me appreciate how good you are. Yeah. Now, the 3 could not even conceive that that's what I'm thinking on the other side, right?
No.
Right?
No.
You couldn't have even imagined. Are you kind enough to yourself to?
I've learned a lot. I had a job. My last job you learn humility to be a successful 3. Like that you are not, you are not perfect. That is you learn that you learn your levels of, your limits, and that it's okay to have limits, and that's part of like being a human, is like learning your limits and then seeing if you can move them further and just be a better person.
Well said.
And I mean, I as soon as you started the story, I knew exactly.
You're probably mortified that I even said it on camera. You're probably fine, but I'm just saying a 3 is like, oh my God, but I'm not human though. Yeah. I'm not human. I don't make mistakes. Yeah. And it's like, oh yeah, you do. Yeah. Everybody does, and it's okay.
Well, and it's just relieving to know that, like, it's a relief to like be able to say it's okay. Sometimes you're going to make mistakes. One of the things I've told you, Laura, I've told other hosts as well. So is like when they say, oh, that was a really good episode. You're just so great. And like I was like, don't set the bar too high for me, because that's going to be something my identity will be attached to it. Like with your coworker, I think I completely understand that, because it's not just that you're criticizing him. It's a deep source of shame.
Yeah.
It's shame is what it is.
That's right.
Yeah.
So you just have to be really clear when you're working with the 3, understand kind of what their world is. And that's true in the Enneagram, you guys, with every single type. Like if you can understand what their basic fear is and what kind of their internal, the wheel that they pass through on the inside, it is so helpful to be able to really help people feel better and support people in the way that they need to be supported. Again, I'll just say, Jesse is so good and does and works so hard for it to always be right, that when that happened, I was like, it reminded me of how good you are all the time. I mean, that's what I kind of learned from that. I was like, my God, if we had an editor that wasn't that didn't care as much as Jesse, oh my God, it would be terrible. So thank you for being as awesome as you are. And
well, thank you. But it was a stupid mistake.
He had to lash himself.
Yeah. Well,
just a little. Well, in conclusion, I mean, I just, I want to say 3s, again, are about excellence. And they, in their quiet, some ways behind the scenes that you never even see, they try to be excellent. And Jesse, you're a great example of that.
Thank you, Laura.
Thank you. I mean, here we have a 3, and how lucky we are to carry us with all this editing and production. So I want to thank you out into the world for how hard you work and how excellent you are as a 3. And I thank you for being on the show.
Oh, I know. I won't be doing this too much. I was like we said, it's like, this is outside my wheelhouse, and like, don't have a lot of control as a 3 for image.
But I think you did. You were excellent.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you, honey.
Oh, we're gonna
fist pump.
we're gonna redo
and
that
hold
one.
hand. I'm a 4. I want to get with you. Emotional. They go. Ah. Yeah, no, thank you, Jesse. Really.
Absolutely.
And so you guys got to know him a little bit. I know. It's awesome. Yeah. Bye, everybody. We're going to do all the numbers.
All the numbers.
So keep watching. We're going to have a whole catalog. Thanks.
Thanks.
See ya.